Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody kept the live stream last night. You can find that on the Smalley Chaser channel on YouTube, as well as JL Scott Fishing. We talked a little bit about finesse. Had opportunity today to get some fishing time in on the Potomac, and then head over here to College Park, the University of Maryland, to catch up with some of the guys. And one of the probably the one brand last night that I got the most questions about in my inbox overnight and in this morning when I got done fishing was Adusta. Okay, and that is there's a long one. Authentic designed and universal standard tackle for anglers. That is Adusta. Okay, designed in Japan. And just because I think a lot of people just don't know much about Adusta, right? You're not going to find them in most tackle shops yet. But they're coming out with some really awesome design soft plastics for finesse. Obviously they do a little bit more than just soft plastic, but some of their designs just are, so unique in a sense of where they position things in their soft plastics. And so, what I brought out today to show the guys was the Gadget Craw. Okay, it's a 3.8. It's a 3.8 inch craw / creature, whichever niche you want to put it in when you find it on drop down menus whenever you're shopping for stuff. But definitely it's a 3.8. It's about six or seven different patterns for the Adusta Craw, and it is just really different in the water than whether some of the other stuff, like whether Evergreen or Depths, and those are all phenomenal brands as well. But something's happening with a lot of the soft plastic bait manufacturers. We all got enamored with the elastomer, end of 2023 and 2024. But there's some other things going on in the process of developing these baits. I really like not only, when you look at a 3.8 inch, okay, but I actually really like the width as well, not just the length. And the density of mass at the top, okay? And one that was really cool is they're giving us now a lot more, for the hooks, right? They're giving us a lot more areas that we used to just see with swim baits, right? Now we're getting into a lot more of the crawl and creature and other features that are giving us those hook slots, or at least areas where we know exactly where the intent was in the development of them, where we should place our hooks, right? And the other thing with this one is it's a lot different in the sense that if you look at it from the head, it has basically the tentacles in the front, whereas most creature baits and most crawl will have them in the back. So it's a different kind of opportunity in terms of how you want to rig. I have 4 of them with me, and they run the gamut of colors too. And they all work in our river systems here in the Mid-Atlantic. And they're just like a unique, obviously chartreuse. Guys, I like the cream colored bottoms for the most part in a lot of my soft plastics and my swim baits, just because a lot of the crawl that you're going to find in most inland river systems in the Mid-Atlantic area have a creamier colored bottom. They may be red or brown or green on the top, but they have a creamier colored bottom. That's why when I get custom crankbaits made, for example, I always like for them to leave the bottom creamy and then do the painting. As opposed to store-bought crankbaits, they're all like one color, right? It's all that color, but crawls aren't that way. They've got a multifaceted dimension of colors from the head back to the tail. So here's the chartreuse bottom, green pumpkin top. Okay. Here's more scuppernut kind of color, red. This is really a more if you were going down, in my opinion, if you're going down to Louisiana, going down in Alabama, if you're going down to Texas, that part, the crawl down there are a lot red. They're more like fire red. They're more like, or Rayburn red, right, is a popular lipless and crankbait. Here in the Mid-Atlantic, these tend to perform, at least so far, a lot better in the fall. Because a lot of times any of the crawls that are still around are mature and they've got darker colors to them. Remember, in the beginning of the spring, they start out greenish, but then they work their way into a brown pattern, and then they become more of a darker red or auburn color, whether it's Allegheny craw, some of the invasive craws, the rusty crayfish, and things like that, the burrow craw. But so those are that color. Then obviously you've got your green. This is my early spring go-to. It's got a little bit of gold flake in the pouring dimension to it. Also like the fact that they're kind of combining some segments now where we're seeing that ribbed nature. A lot of the elastomer now are going to have that like ribbed lines in them. And then finally, my favorite, because if you're in the Mid-Atlantic, if you're in Maryland, you're in Virginia, there's a pretty good chance you're fishing some tidal fisheries. Maybe you're fishing for largemouth, or you're fishing for smallmouth, and you're gonna run into, in the tidal areas, you're gonna run into blue crab, right? And in the inland areas, you're gonna run in potentially to the blue cray, okay? But a lot of the cray, if you work in from the eastern shore coming into Maryland or down in Virginia, a lot of times they're gonna have that bluish flakiness to them. And this is one. It's like a cinnamon dark with that blue in there. This is my favorite color from Adusta. And these are 3.8s. They're not really as big as what you would think a 3.8 in the U.S. traditionally would be. They tend to run a little bit like clothes. They tend to run a little bit smaller, and I guess in Japan and China in terms of what they do. But you can kind of see even the claws are thicker than what you're going to find in a lot of soft plastics. When you weigh these out, they weigh a little bit more than some of the American-made soft plastics for creature baits or craw that you're going to commonly find. And I like that because for smallmouth, what it allows you to do is it allows you to use a smaller hook. And if you smallmouth fish in river systems a lot, you know this. Like those smaller hooks don't get thrown. Okay, the bigger hook you go, whether it's an aught or whatever, the more apt you run the chances of it end up getting thrown. Whereas that smaller hook just sticks in there. And so, because of the weight, okay, there's the rear view, and because of the weight, of soft plastics like Adusta that have that little weight, just change balance to them, that you can go with a smaller hook inside that, and basically they just engulf it, and that bass isn't coming off. And it's just really great. It's got the sides. You can see now they're starting to add a lot more appendages and stuff on the sides of our soft plastics. Usually you ended up with like 2 or 3 or 4. Now you've got some coming up more like the Helgramites that have like 8, 6, or 8 on each side. That's what's happening here. Now, with Adusta, let me give you some information. I'm going to post this in the newsletter, and I'll break down these colors and some rigging options. So make sure you subscribe to the smallmouth newsletter. I'll put that link in the description. You can subscribe at the free level and get pretty much a ton of information if you want to start out. And then if you want to go to the premium level in the subscription, coming up on Substack, I'll send you a pack. Basically we send out a pack. I've sent out a pack of soft plastics or hard bait or something coming in every month to all my subscribers that are at the premium level. So you're basically getting a $6.99, $8.99, $10.99 bag of soft plastics or hard bait, or $12.99 to $14.99 crankbait every month. It really all depends, and that's how we can kind of really begin to get people, understanding like the power of some of these baits to kind of change the game for you out on the river. Because you're not going to find them. You're not going to find very many people talking about a lot of these brands in the States, but they're extremely popular overseas. And a lot of that has to do with mass marketing, distribution channels in America. It's just a tough, it's really tough with distributors and all that stuff. But more and more of them are starting to come to the American shows. And so it's going to be really going to be. I'll be in Japan 2025 for the show, because I want to learn. I want to find and discover a lot more brands like Adusta, Valley Hill. You know, not only that, but also the terminal tackle that actually is more appropriate for this style baits than what we see on tackles, a lot of our tackle shops. You know, that of the brands that we're more familiar with that are geared towards the American baits, you know, in sizes and presentations and that. But one of the really cool things about Adusta is they've got on all their packaging, they've got a QR code. And you could scan that QR code, just shoot a picture of this off the video and scan that QR code, and it's their web page for the Gadget Craw, okay? And so that, and then they also have, you can go to the www.adusta.jp. Obviously, JP is for Japan. And if you have any questions, these guys are awesome with like information. So like, if you have any questions about it or something you're particularly looking for, or colors, or it's really tough sometimes to be able to designate what their color names are. You can, they got a really great shot. You can just go info@adusta.jp. You know, and they're pretty good about getting back to you, you know, with what they have coming or what they have, or you know, again, we're gonna send out definitely in our box samples of Adusta coming up here in the fall, just because I just think they're a phenomenal, you know, they're phenomenal little bait that you know, you want to add to your arsenal, okay? You know, and the colors are spot on. You know, so many of these colors are just natural, okay, to really like our fisheries, especially if you're chasing smallies. So it's just a really awesome little brand that most people don't know about, and I'm going to try and spotlight a lot of these brands coming up, not just from Japan, guys. I'm going to start, if you're a custom bait maker, and you know, and you're working out some unique colors and some unique finesse presentations of soft plastics, hit me up and let me know. You know, and I'll get them out there, and we'll get them in the hands of some people, and get some demos done, and kind of like break them down. I really think that's a hidden niche. Just like there's a lot of Japanese baits that don't ever seem to see the light of day in the States that are phenomenal. There's a lot of custom bait makers in the United States, you know, that really just don't get the attention that they do, because they're small businesses, they're independent. It's a side hustle, whatever it is. It's a passion thing, and they just, you know, it's tough to break through in the industry. We all know that. But you can reach people by getting them, you know, getting a pack of your soft plastics into people's hands, and that's what the bait box is all about. It's really just introducing, you know, a lot of the baits that you just would never come across, and you'll get an opportunity to use them, and if you really like, you know, you have the success that I've had with a lot of these brands. I mean, those are the brands that I'm going to feature in the bait box. But like, if you get the success, you know, then you obviously can double down and order more. You know, and we'll get those in larger quantities coming in from Japan, and get those in, you know, a larger order in from the custom bait makers to support those bait makers here in the States, you know, who really have great products, to include those in the bait box, whether it's terminal tackle, you know, jigs, or soft plastics that you can use, and then give us feedback, and then you can obviously then build that relationship out with that custom bait maker. You know, a little easier here in the States to build relationships with custom guys, you know, that necessarily is to guys all the way over in China, or in Japan, or in Australia and New Zealand. There's bait makers down there too that have really crazy stuff. And so it's a lot harder to have like that kind of relationship than it is necessarily with our custom guys, for you as an individual. But it really all just starts with getting exposed to really great quality. But at the bottom line, it's got to catch fish, right? And that's what I think these do. If I had to recommend one of these to start with, it's going to be this bad boy right here. So if you're interested in this, let me know. Trying this out, because I think there's going to be so many numerous, and I'll list it in the Substack newsletter coming up, different rigging options, with some full photos of these, so you can make a really great decision in terms of, you know, when you want to go with pairing this, using this as a trailer, using this simply as rigged on a jig head, using this simply, freewheeling it. I've put them on bladed I've put them on bladed jigs. I've put them on underspins. They're just a really, really functional thing, and to have that out the back, look at that. Just if you look at that motion there, that's really what you're looking at. All right, guys. Again, this is Adusta. Okay. This is the Gadget Craw 3.8. Okay, 3.8 inch. There's some other sizes coming. Haven't arrived yet. I'll post that up on Facebook and on the Substack as well once we get these other sizes in. But the 3.8 is more like a 3.5, 3.3 to 3.5 in my opinion, which is what I think most it's right the sweet spot for most of the sides, unless you, of course, if you're on a couple other rivers where the curl get freaking 5 inches, 5.5 inches. But definitely go with that cinnamon blue flake pattern to start with. All right, guys.